Please open to page 181 in your student journals. Today we're going to continue graphing our exponential functions. Last time we saw what an exponential function was, that it has a variable in the exponent. We saw what the graph of an exponential function looked like, had that nice curve shape to it. And we talked about the transformations of our graph of a reflection, a stretch, and a compression. Today we're going to continue graphing our exponential functions, and we're going to look at our remaining transformations. What I want us to do in number 8, please cross out the equation that's there, and I want us to write y equals 2 to the x plus 3. In order to graph these, I want to continue just like we did last time. I want to make a table of values. -1, 0, and 1, those should work just fine for us. And if you want to, guys, like I said last time at the end of the last video, if you want to just put these things into your calculator, you absolutely can. So when I substitute -1 in for x, I have 2 to the -1st plus 3. So if you want to switch to your calculator and you want to end up with a decimal, I'm okay with that. So we have 2 to the -1st power plus 3. And I end up with 3.5. If you have your calculator handy, please try entering that in at this time and make sure you can come up with 3.5. If you cannot, please either ask Mrs. Golly for help or ask a member of your group. So when we substitute -1 in for x, we got 3.5 for y. And I'm totally fine if that's how you want to write it. You can have decimals in your table, and we can graph those very easily. That's okay. Next up, we substitute 0 in for x. So 2 to the 0 plus 3. Again, if you want to jump to the calculator, that's okay. Yours probably does not enter it in like mine, so again, if you need some help with that, please either ask me or a member of your group. 2 to the 0 plus 3 ends up being 4. And then we're going to go 2 to the 1st plus 3. And if you want to do the computation in your head or pencil paper, you're more than welcome to. My concern is that you can graph an exponential function and pick out transformations. I don't want us to get bogged down with computation mistakes. So 2 to the 1st plus 3, I end up with 5. Now I have 3 nice ordered pairs I can graph to get my nice curve shape that I need. Draw in our axes. X is -1, y is 3.5. So I go -1 on the x, 1, 2, 3, and then a half box on the y. And that's okay to graph right in between. X is 0, y is 1, 2, 3, 4. X is 1, y is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we get that nice curve shape to our graph. Now if we take a look, our graph this time, instead of just maybe going up faster or up slower or being flipped upside down, now our graph has actually been moved. When we added 3, here's our original graph of just plain old 2 to the x. Now my graph has been moved up 1, 2, 3. So adding 3 caused my graph to move up 3. If we go to number 9, please cross out the equation in number 9. And let's go ahead and put y equals, let's do 2 to the x minus 3. And again, I want to go ahead and make a table of values. And once again, if I just want to put those into my calculator, 2 to the negative first minus 3, that's okay. You don't need a graphing calculator to do this. I can show you how to do these on just the scientific calculators that I have in my room. End up with negative 2.5, 2 to the 0, minus 3, we get negative 2, 2 to the first minus 3, and I come up with negative 1. Now I'm graphing some negative y values this time, so I'm going to scoot my axis up a little bit. Negative 1 on the x, negative 2, and then half of a box on the y. 0, negative 2, and then 1, negative 1. And we get that nice curve-shaped graph. Make sure your graph is not going below that negative 3. Same over here. Your graph should not be going below that positive 3. So now let me just sketch in real quick that original graph. Here's y equals 2 to the x. So there's no minus 3 there. So now if I subtract 3 to get from the red graph to the purple graph, our graph has been moved down 3. So adding 3 on caused our graph to move up 3. Subtracting 3 caused our graph to move down 3. Now let's see what happens. Our final transformations, if we go on to page 182, let's look at number 10, and let's change our equation. Let's do y equals 2 to the, and we're going to do x plus 3 as part of the exponent. I once again want to make a table of values. But this time I'm going to change up my x values, and we're going to see why in a minute I'm changing up my x values, so just bear with me. And you'll see why in just a minute, why I changed my x values from negative 1, 0, 1 to negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So let's go ahead and substitute those in. I'm out of space over here, so I'm going to go right over here to the right of my graph. So 2 to the negative 2 plus 3. So that gives me 2 to the first power, which is just 2. 2 to the negative 3 plus 3. I have to do my adding in my exponent. I get 2 to the 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1. 2 to the negative 4 plus 3 is 2 to the negative first. You want to pop that in your calculator, you can. Negative exponent to make it positive, I move it to the denominator. Now I know you might be thinking, oh Miss Kyle, you put all those other ones in your calculator, how do I put this in my calculator? If you want 2 to the negative 2 plus 3, take a second and try that out in your calculator and make sure that when you enter that in, you come up with 2. It depends on your calculator how you need to enter that in, and once again, I'll be more than happy to show you that, or if somebody else in your group happened to get it, you could ask them as well. Let's graph our ordered pairs. -2, 2, -3, 1, -4, half. So here's our new graph. And here's our original. Y equals 2 to just the plain x, no plus 3. So all the points on this graph to get from the red to purple, when I added 3, this point went 1, 2, 3 to the left. This point went 1, 2, 3 to the left. This point went 1, 2, 3 to the left. So adding 3 in my exponent caused my graph to move to the left 3. Now moving to the left 3 is why I chose to put -3 in the middle of my table. It went to the left 3, making the middle of my graph now at -3. Let's try one more. Let's look at number 11. Let's cross out the equation that's there, please. And let's do y equals 2 to the x. Let's do a -3. I once again want to make a table of values. And let's stop here and let's make a little guess. If adding 3 in the exponent, like we did in number 10, if adding 3 made my graph go to the left 3, subtracting 3, I'm going to make a guess that it's going to go right 3. I'm going to make a guess and I'm going to see what happens. Now if I think my graph goes to the right 3, that means I want 3 at the middle of my graph. Some numbers close to 3, 2, and 4. Substitute 2 in for x. You have to do 2 minus 3 first, which is -1. Make it positive, flip it to the bottom. 3 minus 3, we get 2 to the 0, which is just 1. 4 minus 3 is 2 to the first, which is just 2. Once again, you are more than welcome to enter those into your calculator. You need help doing that, please let me know. We'll sketch our graph. 2, 1/2, 3, 1, 4, 2. And remember, our graph needs to have that nice curved shape. It's not a straight line. It's not going to drop down. It's not going to drop down here into those negative values. It's going to stay up. Here's our original graph of y equals 2 to the x, so no -3. This graph has been moved 1, 2, 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3 to the right. So we were correct. Our graph did move to the right 3. So now we've looked at graphing exponential functions with all the different types of transformations. So at this time I want you to go ahead and try out your progress check. Ask me any questions you need to. Use all of your notes on that check as well. Keeping in mind as you're making your table of values, you can use your calculator to get your y values. If you need help entering those things in, please let me know. Also keep in mind, if you're adding or subtracting in your exponent, like we did in 10 and 11, your x values are going to need to be changed accordingly. If you need help setting up that table of values for your x's, please let me know. If you're not adding in the exponent, you can just use -1. You can just use -1, 0, and 1, like we did in numbers 8 and 9 in all of our graphs from last lesson.